Towson, Baltimore, and birthday weekend coming up, and the tailgate getting ready for the Chicago Bears in town here. But the Terps got a game on Saturday afternoon as well. Certainly did not play out well for the Turtles out at the Horseshoe on Saturday afternoon. This guy travels with all Terps games as the longtime color man and insider with all things Terrapins. We welcome Tim Strachan, one of our defending champs, back on to, I don't want to say defend the indefensible, but Tim, when you're on your fourth quarterback, as Bruce Posner said to me earlier in the week from Terp Talk, Belichick can't win football games with a fourth-string quarterback. This has just been, as much as we want to complain about the Ravens and how many injuries we've had, and there's injuries all over football. I know the Houston Texans will have that, as will the New York Giants, based on what happened over the weekend. But boy, I can't think of. Show me another team that's on its fourth quarterback right now in college football. Can't be too many, right?
Yeah, no, I can't think of one. And if I had to search for one, I think it would take me a lot longer to, figure that out as well. Because I don't think anybody's really going through what Maryland's gone through, and we don't know exactly sure if Max Bortenschlager is going to be able to go this coming Saturday against Northwestern or not. And if he's not ready to go, then they're moving on to Caleb Henderson, who we got our first sight of action against Ohio State. And I think the kid's a good-looking athlete. I think he's well put together. He's got good size, good girth. He throws a really nice ball. It's just he's had this fractured foot problem since spring, and I'm not sure if he's really completely 100%, even though it looked like he was able to go a little bit last Saturday against Ohio State.
Well, I mean, give me anything about the Terps that you would deem as something that's moving forward after that kind of a beatdown. And look, DJ went through this a couple times last year. You went through this a couple times last year. Certainly it's almost a carbon copy when you consider the injuries, minus the Will Likely thing, and we don't even want to be anything predictive about anything in the future. But looking at the rest of the schedule, looking at Wisconsin around the corner, also looking at this, murderer's row literally at the end of the year now with Michigan State stepping up, and Michigan maybe looks to be a step backwards from where they maybe were, but it's all that much more important that Northwestern, Indiana, and Rutgers, that these become the kind of efforts that Maryland's going to go out there and win these football games. They need to get the 6 wins.
Yeah, it's certainly not time to write this team off, despite some of the adversity they're having at the quarterback position and injuries and things of that nature. People were ready to write them off after the UCF loss. And then look how they bounced back and see what they did against Minnesota at Minnesota. I don't think anybody thought that Maryland had any chance of beating Ohio State. I think the frustration there is that it was 62-14, not that much of an improvement from last year's spread and score. That's, I think, the most disappointing thing to me is that I would have liked to have seen Maryland give a little bit more of a fight, make it a little bit harder on Ohio State, and they just weren't able to do that. And I think that really just indicates how far they are from getting to where they want to be. But there's plenty of teams on this schedule moving forward that Maryland can play with on any given Saturday. And I think that includes Michigan State, Michigan, Indiana, Rutgers, Northwestern, all of which are very winnable games. Again, Michigan's going to be difficult. I think that rivalry probably played a little bit into that. The weather played into a little bit to that Michigan State win over Michigan. But, the Wisconsin, Michigan, and Penn State games certainly are the toughest games left on the schedule, and they're still ahead of Maryland. So it's going to be up and down from here on out, but there's certainly plenty of games that are going to be competitive for Maryland.
Tim Strachan joining us here, talking all things Maryland Terps. And I guess defensively, the question would be about tackling, about speed, is certainly the run, right? Stopping teams that have 6 running backs that they're going to run at you and average 6-7 yards a carry. I guess that's the most disappointing thing, is you just get beaten over and over, which is what happens when you lose 62-14. You go back, much like when Maryland was losing, the Ravens were losing 44-0 over in Wembley. You look back on the whole tape and say, well, just burn it. There's only a handful of plays where you could look back and say, well, that was the way we drew it up and wanted to execute it all day long, right?
Well, that's not why you watch film, though. You watch film to watch the plays, the majority of plays that you didn't play very well, and how maybe you can correct it and play them better. That's the whole point of film breakdown, and to learn how to become better from one week to the next. Really, my biggest criticism of the defense so far is something you hit the nail on the head on, which is the tackling, and specifically the tackling behind the line of scrimmage. This team would have so many tackles for loss if they just tackled the guy in the first contact. So many times I've seen Maryland get into the backfield, put a hand or a shoulder pad or something on a ball carrier behind the line of scrimmage, only for the ball carrier not only to break out of that first tackle, but maybe even more tackles, and then gain 6, 7, 8 yards. Sometimes even on third and long situations, they're able to convert the third down and keep the drive going. That has been a really frustrating thing, and one that really is on the kids to correct, not necessarily the coaches, other than pointing out, hey guys, we could have been so much better if we just tackled in the backfield. So that's been one big Achilles heel for this Maryland defense. And I think the other one is up front, they're just not big enough yet. Against the really, really big boys like Ohio State, they're getting pushed around a little too much. They did a pretty good job to start the game off against Ohio State, stopping the run. But over time, those big hosses and those really good ball handlers for Ohio State just ended up wearing this team down towards the end and able to rack up a lot of yardage on the ground. So I think it's just up there in the front. They're not quite there yet, but they're better. They're certainly better than they were a year ago, and they certainly were better to the point that they could have that they beat Minnesota. So I think they're kind of in that tweener stage between being really, really, really good and just being one of the competitive teams with the rest of the Big Ten right now.
You can follow him out on Twitter at T13Strachan. That's Strachan, of course, of the Terps radio team. And calling Terps action, Northwestern 3:30 down at Bird this weekend, and trying to get themselves right after an incredibly difficult, disappointing loss. And we start going through quarterbacks at this point. Anything you want to say about that? I mean, from a recruiting standpoint and where they are and what was flashed earlier in the season in the Texas win, I'm not down on next year's program. I certainly saw the athleticism of what we have at the quarterback position, but all that kind of goes out the window at this point, and you're just trying to bootstrap to get through week by week at this point, right?
Look, I'm an old school quarterback guy. I believe in having a pocket passer, a guy that can sit that back there and pick things apart. I don't think you necessarily have to have a quarterback who can run the ball, but the trend in football these days, certainly in college and no doubt in high school, is to have the dual-threat quarterback. And at the high school level, it's great because if you have one of your best athletes, and probably one of the best athletes on the field at the quarterback position, you can run him, you can throw him, he can probably, just with better athleticism, do better than everybody else. And then at the college level, it's a little bit more difficult, but still, you can have a great athlete like a Deshaun Watson or somebody like that, or a Vince Young, somebody who can just physically dominate most people that he's playing against on any really given Saturday. You can get it done. But you don't see this happening at the pro level because you can't expose your quarterback to that kind of punishment, or else the quarterback position greatly diminishes. And I think we're seeing some of that at the top levels of college, because when you're in a conference like the Big Ten East, you're playing really good football teams a lot. You're not getting the pansies, you're not getting the cupcakes where you can just kind of get through with it. If you're going to run a quarterback, you're exposing him to hits and potentially putting him in position to get hurt. So it's a decision that the coaching staff has to make, and the schemes that they want to run. If they want to run a quarterback, just know that you're going to put your quarterback in a position to get hurt from time to time, because he can't lift and put his body in a position like other running backs, because then he's not effective throwing the football. That's just not how it all works out. So, if you're going to do this type of thing, you're going to run a quarterback the way that they want to run the quarterback, just know that you're going to see a lot of quarterbacks going down.
Tim, I want to ask you about the tackling thing, because it is interesting, because we're seeing this a lot at the NFL level, right? Like, if I have a complaint about the Ravens, especially over the last couple of weeks, even in a victory against Oakland, is that first point of contact and tackling guys. And look, the guy with the ball is bigger and stronger and shiftier and training and moving and all that stuff. The other thing is he's not getting hit a lot in practice, so he's a little fresher. The other part of that is when you're not tackling, and I'm sure every defensive coach in the NFL would talk about, all the issues of CTE and new flags and the way the game is played and heads-up tackling and hours gone and practices missed and two-a-days being taken away and non-contact, all that stuff that we concern ourselves with, and rightly so, with player safety. It is affecting the play on the field, because tackling is not so good most places because, quite frankly, most guys don't practice tackling as much anymore, right?
Well, it looked like Ohio State tackled pretty well against Maryland. So I don't know if that's across the board. Listen,
they're probably cheating and practicing with the lights off somewhere or something. I don't know. But I know every time Harbaugh tries to do that, he gets fined. I know that.
Listen, I don't know if I'm smart enough to even approach the subject that I think you're really getting at the end of there. as to whether, the safety of the game and the game should change. I mean, if everybody's really that worried about it, throw on a belt with some flags and let's I guess go play some flag football. That's not the way the game was designed to play, and I think you're onto something. That tackling in general is not as good as it maybe once was. I don't know.
Well, you can only practice tackling so much anymore because of the contact rules, and that's the reality of helmets and heads and concussions, right? I mean, literally.
Well, but I've been a part of. I don't go out to the practices now like I used to when I was a student assistant coach. I was out there every single day under Duffner and Vanderland, and even back then, they didn't hit like you're. I think like you're thinking they did. It's not like they practiced tackling as much as it made a huge difference. They really didn't hit much back then as opposed to today. Today they just go more, with shells and no pants and stuff like that just to cut down on the wear and tear. I don't know if that's really a big factor. I think it really is about personal pride. It's about, focusing on the task at hand. It's about not trying to get that sports center hit, instead of just, wrapping your arms around the guy and bringing him down. I mean, to me, that's really what it is right now. If you want to get into the bigger discussion about CTE and the safety of the game and whether or not they're not doing it enough in practice, I'm not so sure it's really pinned on all of that.
What's your reasonable expectation against the Murderers Row they're going to face here? And obviously, they got to go out to Wisconsin next week. At the end, it's Michigan, now an emerging Michigan State team, Penn State at the end. Real expectations, obviously winning the games in front of you, Northwestern Indiana and Rutgers, but I don't know what the expectations are when you're losing 62-14, and you could easily be playing with a fourth or fifth quarterback by the time you get to Penn State. It's a long way out, Yeah,
what was the statistic last year after three, ranked teams? It was like 129 to 21 or something like that. It was just an awful statistic. They've been through this before, and they went to a bowl game last year. So again, you can't write them off. Other than Wisconsin, Michigan, and Penn State, I'm not scared of any team on the rest of for the rest of the schedule for this Maryland team. I think that every other game is a winnable game. I'm not saying those three aren't winnable, but they're more than likely not going to be wins for them. Everybody else, hey, let's tee it up and see what happens. I think the ceiling really is about 7 wins for this team, which is a bowl game and an improvement over last year. So it's not all over. A 62-14 drubbing from one of the best teams in the country, who's very likely going to be vying for the national championship. And when it's all said and done, it's not something that you can, really get that upset about. Yeah, it was hard to swallow that day. I think we're kind of moved on, and we're ready for Northwestern now.
Northwestern, 3:30 on Saturday down in College Park. Not the only football going on. Of course, the Ravens playing on Sunday as well. Hey, Saturday's my birthday, Tim. Tell the Terps to win one for me, all right?
Hey, I'll try to get him to do it, man. Pat Fitzgerald does a great job there. He and I shared a office at University of Maryland when he was a GA here under Ron Vanderland, and now he's going on to do incredible things, making millions of dollars, being a head football coach. I'm a struggling lawyer. Which one do you think took the right path there? But it's going to be nice to see.
But at least you enjoy your job.
Yeah, you're right. At least we get a chance. I get a chance to see Pat Fitzgerald come back in the College Park, and he's such a great guy. I think he's done a great job with that program, and I think it's going to be a fun game. And something tells me that you might have a fun birthday, my man, because I think that Maryland's ready to bounce back.
I'm usually rooting for the team in purple, as you know. So this week, I'll make an exception here and root against that team in purple. Hey, great having you on, Tim. Always a pleasure to visit with you, man. Better days ahead. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, bud.
You got it. Tim Strachan joining us here. He is T13 Strachan. That's Strachan out on Twitter. And, of course, longtime radio color man for all things Turtles football. Ravens football Sunday at 1 p.m. Chicago Bears coming in struggling, and Mitch Trubisky. Talking to lots of folks out in Chicago. We also got some LCS baseball conversation going on this weekend. Caps back on the ice, about to get the NBA and the college basketball thing going here the next couple of weeks as well. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and we're very, very easy to find out in the buy at Toyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile mobile device, just download the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear. The morning newspaper delivers to your email inbox free of charge each and every morning at 7 a.m. digitally, and it's all brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com, where it's still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life, and there's one in every neighborhood. It's always judgment-free, and they got that lunk alarm there. So get on over there, get yourself in the best shape of your life. Great place built for grown-ups. It is Planet Fitness right around the corner from you. Last but never least, our breaking news text service is the best thing we do around here. If you love breaking news, you want to know first, get on the text service, like about 10,000 of you have been for about a decade now. You get it all first. It's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis Colatzos will be here on Thursday, driving you home. It is the SSV on WNST. That is 3 until 5. I will be checking in, as will Luke, who is on the backfields in Owings Mills, getting ready for Bears this week, Vikings, and then, of course, the Dolphins. Busy couple of weeks of football up and around here. It's a birthday weekend. I'm entering the Dundalk High Hall of Fame next Friday, so we're going to have a little hootenanny Dundalk celebration. I hope that you participate in Dundalk Appreciation Day on the 20th here at WNST. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.